The massive ship called Dawn-Seeking moved slowly through the empty blackness of space. Captain Doyan stood tall on the bridge, his blue uniform crisp and neat. His eyes were fixed on the main screen that showed a strange object floating ahead of them. "What is it exactly?" Doyan asked, his voice calm but curious. Science Officer Rion tapped quickly on her screen. "It appears to be an ancient warship, Captain. Our scans match it to the Raxa Imperium designs from over 10,000 years ago." The bridge crew fell silent. Everyone in the Galactic Union knew about the Raxa. They had once ruled most of the known galaxy with an iron grip before they suddenly disappeared. "That's not all," Rion continued, her eyes wide with surprise. "It's a Class 2-on-10 Deathworld ship." Doyan turned sharply. "Are you certain? Those are just stories." "The scans are clear, sir. It's designed to house multiple extreme environments. Only a Class 210 would have such systems. Class 210 Deathworld ships were famous in spacer tales. They were built to transport and study creatures from the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Planets where the air itself could melt your skin, where gravity could crush most life forms, where endless storms of acid rain fell from the skies. "There's something else," the communications officer called out. "We're picking up signals from inside the ship. Human signals." Doyan frowned. "Humans? Out here?" "Yes, sir. Standard Earth communication patterns." "Prepare a boarding team," Doyan ordered. "I want to know what humans are doing on an ancient Deathworld ship in the middle of nowhere." 4 hours later, Doyan led a team of 6 Union officers through the massive docking bay of the Raxa ship. The ancient vessel was enormous, at least 20 times the size of their own ship. Despite being thousands of years old, soft lights flickered on automatically as they entered, and the air was fresh and breathable. "This doesn't make sense," Rion whispered. "This ship should be dead. No power, no air." A voice called out from the far side of the bay. "Welcome aboard. Sorry for not sending a proper greeting. We've been busy with the northern gravity systems." A human man walked toward them. He wore a simple gray jumpsuit with many pockets filled with tools. He had short, black hair and friendly eyes. A patch on his chest read, "Tae-Ho Kim, Lead Engineer." Doyan stepped forward. "I am Captain Doyan of the Galactic Union exploration vessel Dawn-Seeking. May I ask what you are doing on this ship?" Tae-Ho smiled. "Of course, we're preparing it for a special guest. My team has been here for about 4 months now." 4 months? Rion couldn't hide her shock. "How did you even find this ship? Our records had no mention of a Raxa vessel in this sector." "Our employer gave us the exact coordinates," Tae-Ho explained. "Would you like to meet the rest of the team? We were just about to have a meal break." Doyan nodded slowly, still suspicious, but curious. The human led them through long hallways that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were made of a strange metal that shifted colors slightly as they walked past. "The ship's systems recognized us as soon as we arrived," Tae-Ho explained as they walked. "Started up life support, gravity, everything. Almost like it was waiting for us." "That's impossible," Rion said. "Raxa technology was coded to their specific DNA patterns. It wouldn't respond to humans." Tae-Ho just shrugged. "And yet, here we are." They entered a large room where 3 other humans sat around a table. A woman with long hair tied back stood up first. "Hana Lee, xenobiologist," she said with a nod. "Welcome aboard." A tall man with broad shoulders and short hair gave them a stiff nod. "Jin Park, security." The 4th human, a younger woman with bright eyes, waved cheerfully. "Yuri, I handle the plants. We've got quite the garden going in sections 3 through 7. "Plants?" Rion asked. "Our guest has some very specific needs," Hana explained. "Several of the habitats needed to be replanted with native species." Captain Doyan crossed his arms. "I think it's time you told us exactly who this guest is and why you're preparing an ancient Raxa Deathworld ship for them." The humans exchanged glances. Jin Park stood up, his face serious. "Our employer is very private. All we can tell you is that they will arrive in approximately 48 hours to inspect our work." "This ship is now under Galactic Union protection," Doyan declared. It's a priceless historical artifact and potentially dangerous. We need to know who hired you. The lights in the room flickered suddenly. All the screens on the walls lit up at once, showing the same symbol, a spiral with 3 dots arranged in a triangle. Tai-Ho's eyes widened. That's new. A message appeared below the symbol in ancient Raksa script, which then changed to modern. Galactic Standard incoming transmission from Jisoo, arrival time adjusted. New arrival, 47 hours, 22 minutes. Gisu, Ryan whispered. That's your employer? Jin nodded slowly. Yes. Do you know the name? Do-yeon's face had gone pale. Gisu is a myth, a story told to scare children. I assure you, said Hana with a small smile, our employer is very real. If the stories are true, Ryan said slowly, then Gisu is one of the last survivors of a species that even the Raksa feared, a species from a world so deadly that they classified it beyond their normal scale. Tae-Ho nodded. That's why they hired us humans. You see, by galactic standards, Earth is pretty harsh too. Class 187 Deathworld, right? We can handle environments that would kill most species in minutes. A loud alarm suddenly blared throughout the ship. Jin rushed to a control panel on the wall. We have another ship approaching, he announced. Much bigger than yours, Captain. The screen showed a massive Galactic Union warship dropping out of faster-than-light travel nearby. That's the Thundermark, Do-yeon said, looking confused. Fleet Commander Hyun's ship, I didn't call for backup. Well, said Jin with a grim smile, it seems your Union is very interested in this find. You don't understand, Do-yeon said urgently. If Gisu is real, if this ship is what you say it is, then we're all in grave danger. The Union Council has standing orders about Class 210 artifacts. They won't let anyone have it. Hana looked at Tae-Ho with concern. We need to finish the Yao. Central habitat preparations. If Gisu arrives and it's not ready. The ship shuddered suddenly. Everyone grabbed onto something to steady themselves. They're attaching docking clamps, Jin reported. They're coming aboard whether we want them to or not. Tae-Ho turned to Do-yeon, his face serious now. Captain, we have a job to finish. Our employer is not someone who accepts failure. I suggest we all find a way to work together before things get complicated. A new message appeared on all screens. Warning. Unauthorized boarding attempt detected. Defense systems activating in 10 minutes. All authorized personnel proceed to secure locations. Well, said Tae-Ho with a sigh. Things just got complicated. We need to move, Tae-Ho said, grabbing a small bag from under the table. Jin, take our guests to the safe area. Hana, Yuri, with me. We need to finish the central habitat now. Captain Do-yeon stepped forward. Wait, we're coming with you. Tai-Ho looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Fine, but stay close and do exactly as we say. The group moved quickly through the massive ship. As they walked, Ryan stared in wonder at the walls. Strange patterns seemed to move beneath the surface like something alive. This ship shouldn't exist, she whispered. The records say all Class 210 ships were destroyed after the fall of the Raksa. Hana smiled as they walked. History is written by the winners. The Raksa didn't fall, they ran. Something scared them so badly they erased all records and fled to the outer arms of the galaxy. They entered a large elevator that began moving sideways rather than up or down. The sensation was strange, making everyone's stomachs turn slightly. What exactly is a central habitat? Do-yeon asked. It's the heart of the ship, Tae-Ho explained. Class 210 ships were built with multiple environments for different species. But the central habitat was always special, built for the most important passenger. The elevator stopped, and the doors opened to reveal a sight that made even the Union officers gasp. They stood at the edge of what looked like an endless field of black glass. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness. In the center of this vast space stood a single structure shaped like a perfect cube, about the size of a small house. That's it? Do-yeon asked, pointing at the cube. That's the central habitat? Tae-Ho laughed. No, Captain. This entire room is the habitat. What you're seeing is just the entrance, but it's huge, Ryan said. This room must be at least 5 kilometers across. 7, actually, Hana corrected. And the environmental conditions are unusual. As they stepped out of the elevator, Doyan immediately felt the difference. The gravity was stronger here, making each step an effort. The air felt thick and had a strange smell, like metal and spices mixed together. The gravity is set to 1.8 standard, Tejo explained. The atmosphere has 15% more oxygen, but also traces of gases that would kill most species. How? Are we breathing then? Rion asked, concerned. The air near the entrance is filtered for visitors, Yuri explained. But as you go further in, it gets more extreme. The temperature ranges from freezing to boiling depending on the section. Jin's voice came through their communication devices. We have a problem. Fleet Commander Hyun and 20 soldiers have boarded. They're demanding access to all areas of the ship. Stall them, Tejo ordered. What are you not telling us? Doyan demanded. Tejo sighed. The truth is, we don't know exactly what Gisu is. Our instructions were very specific about the environment they need. Gravity, air composition, temperature, everything has to be perfect. And the most perfect place is the most deadly, Hana added. Whatever Gisu is, they evolved on a world that would kill most life forms in seconds. A loud alarm suddenly echoed through the vast chamber. Red lights began flashing along the walls. That's not good, Yuri said, checking a small device on her wrist. Someone's trying to override the ship's environmental controls. Tejo's face hardened. Your people are trying to shut down life support in this section, Captain. That's insane, Doyan protested. Commander Hyun wouldn't. He would if he knew what was coming, a new voice said. Everyone turned to see a human they hadn't met before step out from behind a pillar. He was older than the others, with gray hair and a face lined with wrinkles. Sung Min, Tejo said, not looking surprised. I was wondering when you'd show up. Who is this? Doyan demanded. Our gravity specialist, Tejo explained. He's been working in the lower levels. Sung Min walked toward them, moving easily despite the heavy gravity. Your Commander Hyun knows about Gisu, that's why he's here, to stop the meeting. But why? Rion asked. Because Gisu's people and humans share something special, Hana explained. We both evolved on worlds that the galaxy considers death traps. The difference is, Gisu's species was hunted nearly to extinction because of it. A massive tremor shook the room. Far above them, something large and heavy crashed. They're destroying the environmental regulators, Sung Min said calmly. They'll kill us all just to make sure Gisu can't use this ship. Tejo turned to Doyan and Rion. We need your help. Your people will listen to you. Before Doyan could respond, the black glass floor beneath them lit up. Lines of blue light spread out in all directions, forming complex patterns. The cube in the center of the room began to glow. It's too late, Hana whispered. Gisu is here. The cube split open like a flower blooming. Standing inside was a figure that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Sometimes it looked almost human, then it would shift to something with too many limbs, then to something else entirely. That's Gisu? Rion asked, her voice shaking. No, Tejo said with a smile. That's just a message. The figure spoke, its voice deep and musical, speaking perfect galactic standard. My friends, I am grateful for your hard work. I see the Union has found us sooner than expected. This complicates matters, but does not change our agreement. I will arrive in 12 hours, not 47. The ship must be ready. The figure turned to look directly at Doyan. Captain, your people fear what they do not understand. What sleeps within this vessel is not a weapon or a monster. It is my family. 10,000 years we have waited, preserved in the only place the Raxa could not follow. Family? Doyan repeated. Yes, Tejo explained. This isn't just a ship, it's a lifeboat. The last members of Gisu's species have been here all along in stasis pods hidden throughout the central habitat. Another explosion rocked the ship. The lights flickered. We're out of time, Sung Min said. The Union forces have reached the main environmental controls. The glowing figure nodded. Then we must proceed with the awakening now. Captain Doyan, you face a choice. Help us save the last of a species that has done you no harm, or stand with those who would commit genocide out of fear. Duyan looked at his science officer, then back at the humans who had been working so hard to prepare this ancient ship. He made his decision. What do you need us to do? We need to secure the main control room, Tejo said, his voice firm. From there we can lock down the critical systems and prevent further damage. Duyan touched his communication device. This is Captain Doyan calling Commander Hyun. We need to talk. After a moment of static, a harsh voice answered. Captain, you are ordered to return to the Dawn-Seeking immediately. This vessel has been declared a Class A hazard. Sir, there are people in stasis aboard this ship, Doyan replied. Living beings that have done nothing wrong. What you're doing could kill them. They are not people, Hyun snapped back. They are apex predators, the most dangerous species ever encountered. The Union Council has standing orders. No apex survivors are to be awakened. Ever. The communication cut off abruptly. Duyan looked at Tejo with concern in his eyes. Apex predators? Is that what Gisu's people are called? Hana nodded. That's what the Raxa called them. They evolved on a world so hostile that they developed abilities the Raxa couldn't understand or control. So they labeled them as monsters and tried to wipe them out. Another explosion shook the ship, stronger than before. Lights flickered and alarms blared. We need to move, Sungmin urged. The control room is 3 levels up. As they hurried back to the elevator, a new human stepped out from a side corridor. She was young, with short hair and serious eyes. Mireille, Tejo said with surprise. I thought you were with Gisu. I was, she replied. He sent me ahead. The Union fleet is growing. We now have 7 warships surrounding us. Duyan's eyes widened. 7? This is no longer a simple investigation. They're preparing for war. The elevator ride was tense and silent. When the doors opened, they found themselves in a wide corridor with doors on both sides. At the far end stood a group of Union soldiers in heavy armor, weapons raised. Stop right there, one of them shouted. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from a side room. It was another human, a man with a calm face that Doyan didn't recognize. Junho, Tejo said quietly. I was wondering when you'd show up. The new man walked toward the Union soldiers with his hands raised. Gentlemen, I represent Earth Diplomatic Corps. This situation is now under human jurisdiction. The soldier in front laughed. Humans have no authority here. This ship is Union property now. Junho smiled. Actually, that's not true. This ship belongs to whoever can control its systems. And right now, that's us. He pressed something on his wrist. Instantly, the lights in the corridor went out. When they came back on seconds later, the soldiers were on the floor unconscious. Neural disruptor, Junho explained to the shocked Union officers. Non-lethal, I assure you. You're not just an engineer, Rion said, looking at Tejo with new eyes. None of us are just anything, Tejo replied. Earth has been preparing for this day for a long time. They continued past the unconscious soldiers to a large door at the end of the corridor. It opened automatically as they approached, revealing a vast room filled with screens and control panels. The walls were covered with the same shifting patterns they had seen throughout the ship. The main control center, Hana announced. From here we can secure the ship and restore the damaged systems. As the humans moved to different stations, Doyan turned to Junho. What did you mean when you said Earth has been preparing? How did you even know about this ship? Junho sighed. 20 years ago, a small ship crashed in the ocean on Earth. Inside was a lone survivor, Gisu. Instead of turning him over to the Union, our leaders decided to help him. Why would Earth risk war with the Union for one alien? Rion asked. Because Gisu told us the truth, Mireille explained. His people aren't monsters, they're refugees, and more importantly, they're related to us. Duyan stared in shock. Related? That's impossible. Not really, Hana said as she worked at a control panel. Both our species evolved on extreme worlds. Both developed similar adaptations, and both were targeted by the Raxa for the same reason. We were too unpredictable, too dangerous. A deep rumble shook the room. On the main screen, they could see Union ships moving into attack positions. "They're going to destroy the ship," Doyan whispered. "No," Tejo said firmly. "They can't. This ship has defenses beyond anything the Union has seen." As if on cue, the walls began to glow more brightly. A voice spoke from all around them. The ship's AI, awakening after thousands of years. Full defense systems online. Authorized personnel detected. Initiating protective protocols. On the screens, they watched as a shimmering field surrounded the ancient vessel. The first shots from the Union ship simply vanished when they hit this barrier. "The ship recognizes humans as friendly," Junho explained, "just as it recognizes Gisu's people. Because according to its data banks, we share ancestry." "That's the real reason the Union Council fears this discovery," Mireille added. "Not because Gisu's people are dangerous, but because it proves that their whole classification system is wrong. Humans aren't just some primitive species from a backwater Deathworld. We're related to one of the most advanced species the galaxy has ever known." A new alert sounded. On a different screen they saw a small ship approaching, oddly shaped with no visible engines. "Gisu," Taiho said with relief. "He made it." "Captain," Junho said, turning to Doyan. "You need to make a choice. Right now, help us welcome back a lost species that may be humanity's closest ally in the stars, or stand with the Union that has lied about them, and about humans, for centuries." Before Doyan could answer, another alarm blared. One of the Union warships had broken through the defense field and was preparing to dock. Union Ambassador Sung's ship, Rion identified, the highest-ranking official in this sector. "Perfect timing," Junho said with a smile. "I've been wanting to meet him." "Why?" Doyan asked. "Because Ambassador Seung isn't who you think he is," Tejo explained. "He's been helping us from the beginning." On the screen they watched as Gisu's strange ship docked on one side of the ancient vessel while Ambassador Seung's warship docked on the other. "Now," said Tejo, "the real negotiations can begin." The main doors to the control room slid open. Everyone turned to see who would enter first, Gisu or Ambassador Seung. To their surprise, it was neither. An older human man with white hair and a neat beard walked in. He wore a simple black suit with a small earth symbol on the collar. "Elder Sung-ho," Tejo said, bowing slightly. "Who is this?" Doyan asked. "Earth's chief diplomat," Junho explained. "He's been working on this project since the beginning." Behind Sung-ho came a tall figure wrapped in a shimmering cloak that seemed to bend light around it. As it moved into the room, the air grew warmer and heavier. This had to be Gisu. His form was difficult to focus on, sometimes appearing almost human, other times shifting into something alien with more limbs and strange proportions. From the other door, Ambassador Seung entered with 4 guards. Seung was older than Doyan had expected, with lines of worry etched into his face. "This is a violation of Union law," Seung announced, but his voice lacked conviction. Elder Sung-ho smiled gently. "Ambassador, we both know that laws can change when new information comes to light." Gisu moved to the center of the room. When he spoke, his voice had a musical quality that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "For 10,000 years my people have waited, some in hiding, scattered across the stars, others here sleeping in the safety of this vessel." Gisu turned to look at each person in the room. "The Raksa hunted us not because we were dangerous, but because we were different, because we could not be controlled. Your species destroyed entire Raksa colonies," Ambassador Seung argued. "No," Gisu replied calmly. "That is the story the Raksa told. The truth is that we refused to be their weapons. They created this ship, a Class 210 Deathworld vessel, not to transport deadly creatures but to carry those they could not bend to their will." Sung-ho nodded. "When Gisu crashed on Earth 20 years ago, he showed us the truth. His genetic code and ours share remarkable similarities. We evolved on similar worlds, developed similar adaptations." "Impossible," Rion whispered. "See for yourself," Hana said, touching a control panel. A large hologram appeared in the center of the room, showing 2 DNA strands side by side. One human, one from Gisu's species. The core sequences match. At a rate of 87%, Hana explained. Far too high to be coincidence. A new human entered the room, a woman with practical clothes and a tablet in her hand. Minji, Teiho introduced her. Our specialist on the stasis chambers. Minji looked excited. The first pod is ready. We can begin the awakening process. Gisu's form seemed to glow brighter. My family. After all this time, Ambassador Seong stepped forward. This cannot happen. The Union Council has declared. The Council doesn't know the truth, Do-yeon interrupted. They've been operating on Raksa propaganda for millennia. We need to see for ourselves. A tense silence filled the room. Finally, Ambassador Seong sighed. Very well. I will observe this awakening. But if there is any sign of danger, my ships will destroy this vessel, regardless of who is aboard. Minji led the way through the ship to a vast chamber they hadn't seen before. The walls glowed with soft blue light. In the center stood rows of oval-shaped pods, each about the size of a small car. We've prepared the first 10 pods, Minji explained. The occupants are in perfect health according to our scans. Gisu moved to the nearest pod and placed his hand on its surface. The pod responded immediately, glowing brighter. My mate, Gisu said softly. She volunteered to sleep first to show the others it was safe. The pod began to open slowly, releasing a mist that smelled like flowers and rain. Inside, a figure similar to Gisu stirred. Her form was smaller but had the same shifting quality that made it hard to focus on her exact shape. She sat up slowly, her eyes opening, 3 of them arranged in a triangle. When she saw Gisu, she made a sound like singing. 10,000 years, Gisu said, helping her from the pod. Just as I promised. One by one, the other pods opened. Gisu's people emerged, some tall, some small, all with the same shifting appearance. There were only 10 of them, but each moved with a grace that suggested enormous strength and speed. These are the monsters the Union fears? Do-yeon asked quietly. Yes, Sung-ho replied. Beings from a world even harsher than Earth. They evolved. Abilities we can barely understand, changing their forms to adapt to any environment, communicating in ways we cannot perceive. Gisu turned to address everyone. There are 5,000 more of my people in stasis throughout this ship, the last survivors of our world after the Raksa bombardment. We have slept, waiting for a time when the galaxy might accept us. And you, think that time is now? Ambassador Seong asked skeptically. Yes, Gisu said, because now we have allies, humans, a species that understands what it means to be underestimated, to be called primitive or dangerous, simply because they are different. Elder Sung-ho stepped forward. Earth proposes a new alliance. This ship will become a shared territory, a home for Gisu's people, and a place for humans to learn from them. In return, Earth will provide protection and diplomatic support. The Union will never agree, Seong warned. They might, Junho suggested, if they understand what's at stake. He pressed a button on his wrist device. The largest screen in the room lit up, showing a live transmission from Union Chancellor June, the highest authority in the Galactic Union. Report, Ambassador, the Chancellor demanded. Ambassador Seong looked surprised but recovered quickly. Chancellor, the situation is complex. The creatures aboard this vessel appear peaceful, and there is evidence suggesting they may be related to humans. Impossible, Chancellor June said firmly. With respect, Chancellor, Do-yeon spoke up. I have seen the evidence myself. These beings were victims of Raksa aggression, not monsters, and their genetic code shares remarkable similarities with humans. Gisu stepped into view of the transmission. Chancellor June, I am Gisu, last leader of the Vari people. We ask not for charity or special treatment, but simply the right to exist, to wake our people and find a new path forward. The Chancellor was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. The Union operates on principles of justice and truth. If we have been wrong about your species, we must correct that error. He looked at Sung-ho. And what does Earth want from this arrangement? Recognition, the elder replied simply. Humans have been classified as primitives from a death world for too long. We are more than that. This ship proves it. Another long silence followed. The fate of two species hung in the balance. Very well, Chancellor June said at last. I am dispatching a scientific team to verify these claims. Until then, this ship will remain under joint protection, Union and Earth forces working together. After the transmission ended, a feeling of relief swept through the room. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. There is much work to be done, Gisu said, looking at the humans. Thousands more of my people to awaken, a new home to build, a new future to create. Tejo smiled. That's why we're here. Turns out humans are pretty good at surviving impossible situations. And at helping others do the same, Gisu added. Later, as more stasis pods were being prepared, Tejo and Captain Doyan stood on an observation deck watching the stars. Beyond the windows, Union and human ships now floated together, no longer in battle positions. Do you think it will work? Doyan asked. This alliance between your people and Gisu's? Tejo looked out at the vast emptiness of space. Two species, from the harshest worlds in the galaxy, both told they were too dangerous to have a place at the table? I think we'll get along just fine. In the central habitat below, more of the very people were awakening from their long sleep. After 10,000 years, they were finally free, and they had humanity, another underestimated species from another impossible world, to thank for it. The Class 2A10 Deathworld ship, once designed to contain the most dangerous beings in the galaxy, was now becoming something new. A home, a beginning, and a symbol of what was possible when the impossible was embraced rather than feared.